So, welcome back to another episode of Appalachian Shine. This is your usual host, JC Schweingrouber with the Foundation for Appalachian Advancement. And we have a guest on with us today. We're going to talk a little bit about some magazines and publishing and some really interesting stuff here in Southwest Virginia, Eastern Tennessee. We have Janie Jessee with us today, and Janie is the publisher of Voice Magazine and Jan Carroll Publishing, Inc. Janie, welcome to the show. Appreciate you coming on. You've got a lot going on.
Well, thank you. It is such a pleasure to be on the show today. And yeah, we've got a lot going on with the magazine and we publish books. So this year in 2024, we are celebrating 20 years of Voice Magazine for Women being distributed in Northeast Tennessee and Southwest Virginia. So we got a lot going on with that.
Yeah, I noticed that you do a daytime talk periodically, right? On is that
Right.
up in Tri-Cities that you do that?
Yes, that's in Tri-City. Yes, the daytime talk. We're on there once a month with the books primarily. I was on there, being excited about the magazine's 20th anniversary. And so we also have a podcast that we do in interviewing our authors and getting their books out there. But this year in 2024, we have so much going on, particularly with the celebration of Voice Magazine. Voice Magazine, I tell everyone, was started on a wing and a prayer. And the first year, I actually had women that saw the magazine, the first issue, and really wanted to be a part of that. So an informal board of women was formed the first year that the magazine came out. And we met each month and we talked about the magazine, the direction, the articles, and the content. And after about a year, everyone sort of went their own way. But by then, the magazine had developed its own personality. So that the rest is history, as they say. But 20 years is a long time. We've seen a lot of changes, not just in distribution, but print. And when you think about the magazine 20 years ago, that 16-year-old is now 36. So they're into marketing and in the social media. And so we have to keep the content fresh to reach across the generations. So we are excited about 20 years with the magazine.
That is pretty incredible. For like, it doesn't matter where you're at. If you're at a New York running a big magazine, 20 years is a long time for a magazine to stay relevant. And I think that's would you say that's part of focusing on the community here, just in our neck of the woods? That how broad is the distribution for the magazine?
The distribution, we used to have some distribution on into Tazewell County. That was in the beginning. We really had a very large footprint. But as time changed, we had to change as well. So our distribution goes up to Abington, Damascus, and sometimes we have some distribution over in Richlands. I do have an author, Jan Carroll Publishing has an author in Tazewell, and she helps get the magazine out different locations for us. So from that direction, we do go a little bit over into Southwest Virginia. We go into Norton. We've gone into Big Stone Gap, that direction. And
Okay.
of course, then Kingsport and back this way.
Okay, so that's a pretty good distribution size from where you're at. And I've seen being in Richlands, I've seen the magazine here in my town, and
Yeah, yeah.
so it's really good to see that. Now, going on 20, you said 20 years. I was just looking at the cover of the latest issue you have on your website, the March issue, and I guess give us a little background when it's Voice Magazine for Women. What kind of topics do you focus on? And I noticed you had a really interesting cover on this one about sowing seeds of community with a person you'd highlighted in the magazine this time. But
We
yeah,
Yeah, we try to, do a spotlight on regional women and regional businesses. And we ask for people to submit ideas, or maybe they know someone that deserves an opportunity to, make an announcement about their business. And we also work, with nonprofits if they have something that they want to get into the magazine. So we try to spotlight local businesses and articles that are appreciated. For example, recipes. And one of our best topics has been about pets. People love their pets, and so we will try to have articles about pets and what we feel that a reader asks for. And I do get people to let me know, well, I want to see some articles in there about cooking, or I want to see some articles in there about health. So primarily right now that's a hot topic too. One of our articles is on health. Each month we have that regularly in there.
Okay. Did that really become, I mean, I know that's always been an issue, but did that seem more relevant after the COVID pandemic?
Yeah, because actually during COVID, I mean, we were very fortunate that we didn't miss a beat. The magazine comes out monthly, and it usually comes out around during the first 5, 8 days of each month. And we also have the online version, which is the full version of the magazine. So if they are not necessarily in our distribution region, they can see the full version online. But during COVID, we didn't miss a beat, and we could redirect some of our content to what was currently happening, about wearing masks and how do you wear a mask and is it required, and that kind of thing. So during COVID, we did redirect some of our articles, but health is always one of the best articles. We get a lot of positive feedback about that.
When it comes to health, I think one of the things that I hear more and more people talking about is kind of getting grounded, getting back to earth, and like we're in the perfect place for it here in Central Appalachia, where people
Right.
are looking at that maybe haven't done it before or haven't done it since they were young with their mother or grandmother, getting back into gardening and making your own food and canning, which just seems like a
Yes.
lost art. And are you seeing more of that picking up over in the Tri-Cities area and beyond?
Yes, because we have a regular writer for the magazine each month, and her article is about gardening. And she goes from, actually the vegetables to the flowers. So she's always providing information. And that's what we try to have in our content for the magazine is information that our readers can use and that they find it helpful. So yeah, we definitely have, the art of canning has almost disappeared, but you sometimes want to resurrect those things from our parents and our grandparents. And the magazine certainly we have articles that will go in that direction, and we get a lot of support to that.
Yeah, and I think the more people become aware of kind of I guess the dangers and just unhealthy processed foods that we're always buying at the grocery store, this stuff is
Right.
more and more relevant. So, gentlemen, don't be afraid to pick up Voice Magazine for Women if you're looking for that information too, because
Oh,
it's a good I mean it's a good topic to I think focus on. I guess in just kind of the world today with supply chain issues, and the more we learn about health and just unnecessary inflammation and obesity and things like that, we learn yeah, it's a very important topic for the magazine. I'm glad to see that actually has been picking up more and more. So you have
yeah,
oh, go ahead.
we actually have a good male readership. We have a male writer for the magazine, and we make a joke that the magazine is free for women to read, but we charge men when they want to read it. Of course, that's a joke. But I've had men to tell me they love the magazine because it helps them figure out what maybe gifts to buy for their loved one or their wife. And it also, they like to cook. So they appreciate the recipes that are in the magazine. And then we do have health articles that will be, directed toward men's health as well. So yeah, we allow men to read the magazine. They'll enjoy
Yeah, it's
it.
ironically you bring that up. I was literally just this past week having a conversation with some of our listeners will know her as well, Christy Slaughter, who is a radio host on the Super Talk over in Bristol on Saturday morning, and she was talking about podcasts as well, and doing something women focused. And she said, well, with men, we were having this conversation. She was like, would men listen to this? I was like, absolutely, because there's so many things that we would love to see sections on that women cover, like a Valentine's Day is coming up, Mother's Day is coming up.
Right.
What are the best gifts to buy? What are the best first dates? You know,
Yeah.
things that we can kind of navigate around. Like you've been out of the dating pool for a while. Like what's a good first date now? You don't want to be cliche or boring. It's something new
Right.
and exciting. And gift giving, I hate to admit, I'm one of the worst at it. And so I'm always doing research online before holidays, like What do I buy my sister? What do I buy my 16-year-old niece? When
Yeah.
they were little kids, it was easy, but like when they grow up and just don't know, and gift cards are kind of, I hate to do that. I like to see people open something up,
Yeah.
but yeah, that's a good topic. Now you folks are out there sponsoring and taking part in a lot of events. Are you going to be around for the festival in I guess is it July and August in Abington?
Oh, yeah. Yeah, we definitely are part of that. We're really excited about the Highlands Festival that's coming, and we participate each year. And we do mostly that with our writers and our books. And one thing that we're doing this year in conjunction with the magazine and Jancure Publishing, which gets confusing. Jancure Publishing actually owns Voice Magazine, or we do business as Voice Magazine. But under the name Jancure Publishing, we publish our books. And one thing that we decided to do together for Voice Magazine and Jancure Publishing is that we are going to publish a book that we are asking 20 women out there who would like to share their story of how they have achieved and their accomplishments. And maybe they're a businesswoman in a career, or maybe they're a business owner and they've had struggles and challenges and they have overcome with much success, and they want to share their story as an inspiration to other women. So we're asking 20 women to share those stories, submit them to Jancure Publishing, and we're going to put them in a book form. And this book, it's more than just an inspiration to other women, but it's going to be a legacy that a business women can leave. I mean, we're going to make it a commercial product, and it's going to be sold on Amazon and through Barnes and Noble and other venues. But we're really excited. Like I said, we're going to be celebrating all year long, 20 years. We deserve to celebrate all year long. And so that's one of the projects that we have going on this year with the magazine, is offering the opportunity that women can be a part of this book. We have limited it to 20 women because of our 20th anniversary. But as we get more submissions, we may even end up doing a book 2. But this is on book 1 right now. And
Okay.
so that's going to be part of the festival too. We're just really excited that's going to be a part of it.
Well, that sounds great. I did want to get into Jane Carroll Publishing, but before we do that, I had a quick question for you because I may be mistaken, but were you before you got into this, were you into banking in the
I
area?
was. I worked, the banks have changed names, but I actually worked in a bank in Richlands. And then I worked in a bank in Grundy, and I was in banking for about 7 years. And then I jumped into outside sales and worked different companies. And I actually owned a consignment shop at one time. So I think everything that I've done, my resume would be a book in itself, but everything that I've done sort of led me up to where I am today. So
Okay, because
yes.
I was curious about that path, how you go from starting out in banking, because I work in investment and finance. How do you go from banking to running a magazine, which is something. I mean, I know it's ironic because I thought about doing that with our nonprofit,
Mhm.
but that's a journey. So I was kind of curious about that trip.
It is a journey, but I always loved English and grammar. I love to write. And so being in banking, I certainly got acquainted with um, numbers and the system and career paths. And it opened doors for me. And in one of those doors that it opened, I was able to go into outside sales. And that took me into newsprint. I ended up working for a newspaper. And in doing that, in the sales division, I got used to writing copy for ads and seeing that direction in print. And someone approached me. I can't say the magazine was totally my idea, but someone approached me about starting a women's magazine in the region. And this was through my contacts with the newspaper when I worked for the newspaper. So we sat down, we had several meetings, but ultimately, when we got down to putting it on paper, our direction, we had such creative differences, we saw it was never going to work. So I told the person I was going to take it and move it in the direction that I saw it should go. And I wish you well and go for it. And I did. So that has been my journey. It's just been through open doors and meeting people. And as it turned out, the idea originated, there was a women's magazine in Asheville, North Carolina, and that influenced doing a magazine in the Tri-City, Northeast Tennessee and Southwest Virginia. So that's a short version of my journey.
No, that's a journey. I mean, that's a story. You write a book in and of itself, like you said. And, your resume would look interesting. Tell us a little bit about Jan Carroll Publishing. When did that come about?
Well, Jan Carroll Publishing, that was the name of the company that owned Voice Magazine for Women. But we ended up about 12 or 13 years ago. There was a small press located in Bristol. And the lady that owned it, our paths had crossed through events and so forth. And we actually shared a part-time employee. The part-time employee worked for her and worked for Jan Carroll Publishing. And she decided that she wanted to sell the company. And that again was another open door. She said it would be the perfect fit since you are acquainted with the employee and we can work together and make the transition. But I really didn't know too much about publishing books. I knew a thing or two about publishing the magazine, but not books. So she ended up working with us for a year in a process of training, and we took the core of her business and just ran with it. It was truly a great opportunity. And we had the resources that at the time she didn't have. And so we were able to grow the company. She had 32 titles, and we have now over 400 titles. But that's how we got into the book publishing side, was through purchasing her book press. It was a small book press. And we ended up buying another small book press out of Florida. And once we made those acquisitions, we sort of grew to a different level in book publishing. And again, there were doors opened because of that level. So that's how we got into the book publishing side. And it really is a very good fit because we utilize the magazine to promote our authors and our books, and it works well together, both venues.
Now, so you have like you said, quite a few titles. What is it? I guess how many people do you get a year submitting to your press?
We get a lot of submissions. Unfortunately, we don't accept all the submissions. We have to look at it if it's a good fit for the author, if it's a good fit for JCP. But so we get several submissions a month, but we can't accept every submission that comes in because it would not be a good fit for either one for that matter. But we ask that if an author out there, they have a manuscript, then they can submit it, and then we review it to see if it is a good fit. And we have a variety of genres. We go from sci-fi and self-help. We have Christian themed books, and we have a lot of children's books as well. So historical fiction, we have a variety of genres.
Yeah, and I noticed I was looking at your website, jancarrollpublishing.com. If anyone out there is interested in submitting something, there's a page on there that has your submission
Right.
guidelines, and yeah, that's pretty precise. As a writer, I've submitted things in a lot of different places, and that you don't always find the best submission guidelines listed on websites. I don't know why some publishers don't do that, but yours is actually pretty detailed on what you like and what you don't like, and formatting guidelines and so forth. It's usually the formatting guidelines it's missing a lot
Right.
of detail. You have 4 or 5 things, but you have a whole list of things here that are kind of do's and don'ts that's standard in this. Um, Now, how many? Do you have any kind of new issues coming out from writers this year? Any book
We do.
signing events
We
planned?
do. We are working with we're working with 3 or 4 authors right now. We usually have in our production lineup, we usually have 12 to 15 titles or manuscripts in some level of production. So we cut the date as April 30th. If there is a submission and the author is accepted and they're wanting it out by the holidays, we have to cut that deadline date off. We have to cut off April 30th in order to secure that book out for the holidays. But we have a lot of books right now. We have children's books that we're working on. The illustrations are coming along. They're just beautiful. Now, we don't provide the illustrations, but we do have a couple of people that we can refer the illustrators to the authors, or they may have their own illustrations when they bring them to us. And we had one of the books that we recently released as a children's book is very timely. The title of it's Boundaries. And it's well written, illustrations are great, but what it's about, sometimes families have to set boundaries in the families. And sometimes the children are caught in the middle, they don't quite understand. So this book was written to explain it to a 6-year-old about setting boundaries in the family. And the author's done very well with that book. And like I say, it's timely. But we have other books. We just did a book that I was so excited to meet the author. She's from Texas, and she had her own TV show, Donna Snow. It was do it yourself. It was Texas moving. They moved houses and then they flipped them. Texan flip, I think, something like that. But they moved the houses and then they would redecorate them and sell them. And her show was on for 7 or 8 years or longer. And she has written a book about short stories that are actually inspired with her family and growing up, and very entertaining. I mean, she is from a rural community, so I could relate to many of her short stories and the old sayings we used to hear. So we were excited to get that one out on the street as well. We
And
were really excited.
she was from Texas. That was another question I was going to ask: is if somebody wanted to submit something, do they have to be from Appalachia, or can they be from outside the area?
No, we do have a lot of authors local. A lot of local authors. We're very proud of it. I think there's so much talent in Southwest Virginia and Northeast Tennessee that sometimes the talent gets overlooked. So we're very proud of our roots and very honored to be able to help authors get their stories out there. But we do have authors from all over. We have authors in California, Texas, Maine, a lot of authors from Florida and South Carolina, North Carolina. So Tennessee, Virginia, all over. So you don't have to be from the Appalachia area to submit, because we actually have different imprints, and we have different imprints that we use for children's books and for local genre like Mountain Girl Press we use for the Appalachia themed books. So
Mhm.
yeah, you don't have to be from this region to submit.
Yeah, I was just looking through some of your new releases here, and there's some really interesting stories. Um, My Appalachian Trail is one book, and I hate to like single out any particular because you have so many. I'd love to give list a bunch of names here, but um,
Yeah.
there's some really great books. A Heart Never Dies. I was reading the synopsis of that story. You talk about a tearjerker. That looked like a really good one.
It
But
is a tearjerker, and she's from the Appalachia area. She's from over in Virginia. So yeah, and she had written one book and then wasn't sure about that, and then she got on a roll with writing, and she's done really well. So yeah, we have a variety, but that particular book is a tearjerker. It's a good one.
um, yeah, and there was another one that kind of grabbed me. Let me scroll down here and I'll get the name of it. Road to Reconciliation and Beyond. Unlikely Friends Become Brothers, about a group of people that were on the cusp of music stardom in 1960,
There
but
was
then
a
faced
group called
prejudice
the
and racism.
Velvets. Yeah.
Yeah. That looks like a really interesting story too. That's from Charles H. Norman III. And then of course children's books on here, and just yeah, there's just so many different I guess something for every kind of reader offered through
Yeah.
Jack Carroll Publishing that definitely, if you're out there, check out the website and check out the list of books and the new releases. Are there any are there any specific writers there, authors there that you wanted to highlight today? Uh,
Well, I'd like to highlight them all because, just as parents don't have favorite children, I can't have favorite authors because I try to treat them all the same. I love them all. But I will toot my own horn. I wrote a book, released it in September. It's part of a series. It's called Gone Before Breakfast. And it falls in the cozy romance mystery series genre.
Okay.
And it's set actually in Abington. It takes you from Abington and South Holston Lake to Belize. So and I wrote under a pen name. My pen name is Jan Howry, and it's Gone Before Breakfast. And I hope to have the second of that series released this fall. So I have to, if there's an author I'm going to plug, I'll plug myself.
All right.
So I can be fair to everyone else.
Well, that's fair. That's fair. And just to toss this out there as well, and I bring this up anytime I go to meetings with the Appalachian Authors Guild, and we have new writers there. Yeah, we always look for guests on this show, on this podcast. So if you have any writers that are interested, maybe coming on for 30 minutes and they get an opportunity to read a little excerpt of their book, talk about their book, their story, we'd love to highlight them too, because that's the purpose of this podcast, is to highlight the best, shine a light on the best and brightest of what we have here in the region. And even if it's somebody that's maybe not from here that has written about the region, they're welcome to come on as well. And we'd love to certainly highlight as many of these artists, because I guess the way we look at it, the way I've always seen it, is our writers. These are the people who they tell our story. They're at the front of the culture war, I guess, of Appalachia, how we get stereotyped in Hollywood over the years on television. And these people, they're the heart and soul of telling our story of who we are as a people, where we've been, and where we're going. And
well, Karen Bruce would, yes, that was the author that wrote the book you mentioned, Heart Never Dies, and she's local. And I think you're absolutely right. The authors locally have so much talent, and they tell their story and about this region. It's the backdrop to their stories, and we want that to live on. We're proud of our roots here. Absolutely.
Yeah, absolutely. With so much rich history and heritage. And I think in one way, a lot of people don't think about this, but people from this region, and I really didn't think about this until I moved back, because, as you're growing up and you're young, you kind of want to get out and explore the world. And then when you get out there, it's like, yeah, I sort of miss home. There's something comfortable about these mountains just wrapping around you, and we live in one of those beautiful places I've ever been. And, just the fact that we have so many people that can tell our story, like this country would not be really what it is if a lot of courageous upstart Appalachians didn't want to go westward past the Appalachians. I mean, we were the ones who sort of broke the barrier, and in a way sparked a little bit of that Revolutionary War that happened, because part of our history, if anybody's written local history, and you may be well aware of this, but there was a battle. It was called the First Unofficial Battle of the Revolutionary War, and it took place here in Appalachia at Point Pleasant, West Virginia. Now, everybody thinks of Point Pleasant as the Mothman mystery, and I know that's fun.
Right.
But there was a battle of Point Pleasant in which the British took the side with Chief Cornstalk, with the natives, firing on a lot of Appalachians because we wanted to extend westward throughout Appalachia when the Crown told us not to. And then when that battle happened, Fort Sumter happened next. So that was the first unofficial battle of the Revolutionary War. And a lot of people don't realize that, and how much rich history we have here, and the stories that we can tell, because a lot of the nation and what it became is a lot of what we are, even though we're spoofed on Hollywood and spoofed on TV and you're stereotyped, but that's okay, because this country is great, because I think a lot of our writers and artists from here, and we would never have seen, America wouldn't be what it is without us. So I just put it that way.
It would not be what it is without us. And I think that we should be very proud of our roots. I am like you. I've traveled some. I've lived in South Carolina for a while, and I really didn't appreciate the mountains until I was away from them and they called me back. And I love the mountains here. I think it's one of the most beautiful areas that there is. And the people here are genuine. And I think that we should be proud of our mountains and our heritage. And there are a lot of stories, a lot of, like you say, history here. And sometimes that gets overlooked by overshadowing images of this area that are unfair and untrue. But there is a lot of history here that, again, should be proud of.
Absolutely. Yeah, I don't want to see Appalachians with their head down because of the stereotype in the world. Keep your head up because
That's right.
we're the bootstrap kind of people basically, and we're the I guess the heart of the the buckle on the Bible belt too, not to mention. But
Right.
all that aside, thank you so much for what you do to promote artists and the writers and storytellers here in this region. I look forward to seeing more. You're welcome back on the show anytime. Do you want to talk a little bit about your podcast and tell people where they can find you and your organizations?
Oh, yeah, thanks. We have a podcast that, like I said, we interview the authors and we promote our books, and we have specials that we do the podcast weekly. And we also have a book blog, and it is called Bookmarked. And our podcast is Bookmarked, which works in conjunction with the book blog. And so we ask people to send in questions to follow us. And if they do have questions, and sometimes I have done a podcast about book publishing. If they have questions about how do I get a book published, there are so many different options these days that it's unfair to say just do it this way, because there are options, and some work for different authors, and then they choose to go self-publishing, or they may choose to have a publisher. So there's a lot of different options. But the podcast is called Bookmarked. The book blog is Bookmarked. And it usually once a week on Friday morning is when we try to get it started, get it uploaded.
Okay. Can I plant a bug in your ear? This is something I would love to see happen every year for an Appalachian writer, whether it's any genre. We have so many different authors guilds. We have organizations like yourself and publishing groups, and it would be great if we could get a collection of a handful of us together, different organizations, and each organization or group or guild get to recommend one or two books that
Right.
they would consider book of the year or artist of the year, and collectively come together and maybe have a total of 10 books that we would review, and then actually issue an award for Appalachian Writer of the Year.
I think
Um,
it's a fabulous idea. I'm all for it. I would be up for that. I think that just takes it to a new level of recognition. And any author out there that certainly from the Appalachian area written about this area, move it forward. I think that's a fabulous idea.
so yeah, just plant that bug in your ear. So if you know of any other authors guilds around there, and even the Appalachian Authors Guild, just run that up the flag. If you know of anybody that might want to run that up the flagpole, our organization, my nonprofit, be glad to be a part of the vetting process to read, and we can find a couple of beta readers that maybe would, and then we could collectively vote and give somebody a nice plaque or award for their hard work. I know it's so hard to sell books, it's so hard to market, and for a lot of people in an area where you don't, we don't have the next, we might have the next Stephen King, hopefully, but we have a lot of great storytellers and writers. So it'd be great to give a top three, like, here's the winner and here's the, silver and then bronze. So great job, you three, and the next people submit a book next year. So,
I think that's a great idea. Absolutely.
all right. Hey, well, thank you so much for your time. I do appreciate it. And like I said, you're welcome back here at Appalachian Shine anytime. Folks, make sure you go check out jancarrollpublishing.com. Make sure you check out Voice Magazine for Women. And if you have any questions, I guess they can just touch base with you through the website. They can buy books from your writers can they buy them on your website and on Amazon?
Yes, on the website. Yes, we have them. They can buy.
All right. So make sure you
And thank
definitely.
you. Thank you for doing this. This is fabulous. Thank you for doing this.
Oh,
This is
you're welcome. It's an honor. I love seeing people succeed, and I love seeing writers especially succeed, and happy doing book signings and selling books. So yeah, they're welcome on the show anytime. So if you want to pass that along to your writers, they want to
I
contact.
will.
And
Absolutely.
but folks, make sure you definitely go out and support your local writers and your artists, your musicians, your poets. If you see them out at book signings, stop by and give them a hello. There's nothing like selling a book locally and getting. And I know it's a thrill when it happens for me when I'm book signing,
Oh,
which is
yeah.
rare. Which is rare. I do one maybe once a year, but yeah, if you see them out at festivals, make sure you seek out the local authors and the artists first. So thanks again, everybody, for tuning in to Appalachian Shine. We'll be back with a new episode soon. We'll see you on down the road.